Oh, we should do Brady Bunch. Where is everyone?
Oh yeah, I don't know which way I look up.
What's up, Internet? You're tuned in to episode 1 of Nintendo Noise, FlipScreen Games' weekly Nintendo podcast. I'm your host, Pete and Bessie, joined, as always, by my very good friend, Mr. Stephen Radford.
Hello, hello.
And the mayor of Haken, Mr. Chewy Huerta. What's going on, guys?
How's it going? I'm excited for this. I've been waiting all my life for the show to
It
start.
feels like that, right?
Right? It is a long time in the making, but we are so stoked to be sitting down for our first inaugural episode of Nintendo Noise. I have been itching to talk Nintendo with you two gentlemen, and I think we're going to have a good show here. I am super excited to get into it because we've got a lot to talk about on our debut episode. But before we do that, let me just quickly take a minute to tell you that this episode of Nintendo Noise is brought to you by our Patreon producers. And the ones for this month are Christopher Valenz, a.k.a. That Doc Guy, Zaid Ida, and Wakahula. Thank you so much for your support over on patreon.com/FlipScreen Games. We really appreciate that you guys believed in the product so much. You came and showed your support before we even got the first episode out. That shows that y'all are the realest of the real, and we really appreciate you. Of course, that is the best way to go and show your support. If you want to, if you like what we're doing here, you want to show your support, Patreon's the best way to do it. And you'll get access to our Patreon exclusive show, One More Thing, where we get just an extra little bit of FlipScreen in your feed. We keep the mics rolling. We talk about what's going on in our lives, what's going on outside the world of video games. This week, Steve and I talked about his vacation to the country and my trip to Brooklyn to record some vinyl records. It was a fun episode. I think it's worth your time. Of course, again, like I said, it's the best way to support the show. So you support us, you get a little bit of extra nonsense from us. It works out. And of course, because this is our first episode, there's a chance that you're coming over from the old show. There's a chance that this is the first time you're ever hearing us. So, of course, I want to just make sure I handle all the housekeeping. If you want to keep up with us all over the web, wherever we are, you can head to flipscreen.games. Our website has links to all of our profiles on every single platform. Our Twitch streams over on twitch.tv/FlipScreen Games are going to be returning this Thursday, August 12th. We're all going to be there. We're going to be playing some games. It's going to be a blast. And we are going to have to restart the road to affiliate here. So, great thing that you could do for us right now while you're listening to this debut episode is to head over there and give us a follow before that first stream even gets rolling so that we can hopefully make some headway over there. And then, of course, if you want to become a part of the community, chat with all the other fans out there who like the show, you want to talk with people who share your interests, who, can help you find your next-gen console or your OLED Switch or whatever, our Discord is the best place to do that. You can come and join the ever-growing community over there, and it's a good time. It's a fun, inclusive, safe community for you to come and talk about games and have a good time. So we hope that you'll come become a part of it and chat with us. And of course, that's also a great place for you to send your questions for this show, like so many of you did for this first episode. We are so stoked to jump into the question block segment later on. If you want to get your thoughts right on the air, just like those fine folks did, you can head over to the Discord, or you can write to us at questions@flipscreen.games. And if it's a cool, good, or silly question, we will absolutely read it on the air. So if you've never written in before, if you've written in 100 times, I hope we'll hear from you on episode 2. All right, so that's enough shilling. Let's just jump into it because there is some meat on this bone, There's a lot of Nintendo news this week, and I'm stoked to talk about a lot of it. The first of which is that Mario Golf is getting its first free update just a few weeks after release, which is awesome. We had known that was coming at some point, but I certainly wasn't expecting it this quickly.
Yeah, it's a bit of a strange one that they kind of told us beforehand that this was coming, because it would have been such a nice surprise to see New Donk City like as a whole new thing and no one knew about it. But when I saw Toadette pop up in my Twitter
I was going to
feed
say, you're
earlier
burying
today,
the lead,
I
man.
was so fucking excited. I love Toadette. She's my favorite Nintendo character. I miss her being a playable character in Mario Party so much. Anytime she was available to play, I would pick Toadette. I don't know why. It's just something about those weird like mushroom pigtails that she's got.
I don't know. I used to be cool with Toadette, but ever since they canonically made her anti-union in that Super Mario Brothers game, I don't know. She was really hard on the workers, and it left a bad taste in my mouth.
Yeah, that's rough. Like both of you, I was pretty surprised to see it. I guess we've been expecting it. They did say there were going to be some new updates for it back at E3, I think, right? So I was kind of starting to wonder like what that timeline would be, and a lot of the discourse around Mario Golf has been people saying like, "Oh, it's an unfinished game. It's got all of this stuff missing from it and everything." So a lot of people feel like, what they got was kind of bare bones and they want something a little bit more full. And so this one is also like kind of I think what people are looking for in terms of like wacky stages and everything. Just golfing through New
Mhm.
Donk City, that
Totally.
is good. It's gonna be hilarious. I already get really frustrated when I just get hit into a terrible bunker and can't get out. And now I'm just like, what is taxis are gonna be in our way at this point.
And Pauline, Pete, is going to be right at home, your
I
favorite
know.
character, right?
Yeah, she's got the home team advantage
Yeah.
Her
finally.
hometown.
Yeah, absolutely.
Her special is so awesome when you use it and you're just like you're singing that song, you're running through super fast. I love that. It's such a fun one.
I could see that working really well on this stage because I'm imagining this being like a pretty flat stage, and like it being more like mini golf where like you need to like get around corners and stuff, maybe like based on what we've seen, but who's to say? But yeah, I'm right there with you, Chewy, where this is like the exact kind of addition that I want to see them make to this game, and I hope this isn't the last one, because
Mhm.
I I think my biggest complaint with Super Rush is that like the core gameplay is still great. It's Mario Golf, and like I think like the battle mode and the speed golf and those new additions are fun. But like there aren't enough courses, they're definitely
Mhm.
could like I feel like the roster is fine, but I think for me like the number of courses is a little disappointing, and a couple of them are like very plain like normal green type
Mhm.
courses. So
Yeah.
I want more levels like this that are like Bowser's Castle or like New Donk City that are decidedly that Mario flavor and have like more obstacles, more hazards, things that are a little bit less traditional. So I'm super excited to see this edition come, and I'll definitely be jumping back in because I had a lot of fun with Mario Golf, but I've definitely like been distracted by other newer games, so it'll be nice to have some new
Mhm.
content to go and unlock.
Yeah,
I'm
same.
glad
I was
you
gonna
had
say
to.
basically, yeah, I would hop in every night and I'd be like, oh, I see people online. I'm going to invite them to the game. And I love that they actually made use of that invite feature that got updated into the Switch too. I kind of hope they retroactively put that into some of the older online games that we have on Switch, but
Hmm.
I mean,
it's just so
they've done it with
convenient to see
Mario
people
Party, right?
playing.
Yeah,
Yeah, yeah, they did it with that.
I've got to say, like, I'm glad to see Nintendo doing this with their games again. It feels like this was such a winning strategy for Splatoon 2. They launched with kind of more of a bare bones thing. Add new modes. We've got like the ranked match mode in this. Add new courses, add new characters, add new specials or whatever. But it makes me doubly disappointed that they didn't do it for so many of their games. It feels like they didn't bother with Mario Tennis. They didn't bother with Mario Party.
Mm.
They kind of just abandoned those and just moved on to the next thing. Like they abandoned Mario Tennis and was like, that didn't really work. Let's do Mario Golf, Mario Party. Okay, people want the old boards, so we'll just make a whole new game rather than adding new boards in here. And it feels like that's kind of a little bit of a missed opportunity on those games.
yeah. I'd like to think
Yeah.
that maybe this shows that they're learning. Like this seems like they have support in mind, and we're going to talk about that as kind of a trend throughout this episode about support for games that are already out. So you see that trend seemingly, you know, becoming the norm a little bit more, but who's to say?
Mhm.
I think it also probably
But
helps. Go ahead.
you got to wonder like if part of that is because of the pandemic and their lack of being able to release new games because presumably some games have been delayed. We haven't seen some of the stuff that's been rumored, like the Zelda stuff that was rumored. I'm fairly certain Breath of the Wild was probably scheduled for 2021 and got the Breath of the Wild sequel got pushed to 2022. And really, they've not had many massive games throughout the space of this year. And last year was really like top heavy with Animal Crossing at the front. So this kind of feels like a way to keep people interested in their games. Seems like they've got some longevity on it, and it has worked for other games. I feel like they maybe need to publicize the timeline a little bit better rather than keeping everything a secret until the last minute. Just make it clear that up front we're going to give you these updates because they do that with Smash. It's like, here's the fighters pass. You're going to get 4 new fighters. You kind of know what you're getting. And if they said year one, this is the kind of the season you get with it. It's like the free DLC, so to speak. You're going to get 4 new courses, 4 new characters, and like 4 new modes. And if they were just clear and open with that, I think people would be a lot less frustrated, which we've seen with some other games where just people just like throw tweets at them on Twitter and just like, where's the new update? Where's the new content?
Mm-hmm.
I think
Yeah.
the idea of this continuing with Mario Golf seems like bolstered by the fact that I saw Nintendo's financial earnings report just came out, this past week, and Super Rush actually is the fastest selling game in the series. It's the second best selling game in the series overall, only behind Mario Golf on N64, which has so it within the first like 5 or so days on store shelves sold 1.34 million, and Mario Golf's total lifetime sales are 1.47. So this is almost certainly going to be the best selling Mario Golf game pretty shortly. So I think it would behoove them to continue to support it as well, because every time you put out new content, that's another opportunity to sell the game again.
But then I also feel like this is kind of an obvious thing. The Switch has sold more consoles than any of the other ones that Mario Golf was released on. Like,
Sure.
if there was a Mario Golf game for Wii, then maybe that would have been like a bigger seller than, I don't know, Toadstool Tour on the GameCube. I kind of just feel that because it's on the Switch, it sells. I mean, look at Pikmin. The Pikmin that released on Switch is the best-selling Pikmin game, but it's not. We know it's not like a best-selling game. But Nintendo still love that franchise.
I think that's the thing, though, is like this probably doesn't need to be a bestseller, right? Like it breaking the 1 million mark and steadily working its way towards 2 million, maybe 3 million over the course of the life cycle of the console. If they continue to support it, I'm sure they'd be happy with that.
Yeah, and I'd say for me, like I feel like this was the year to have kind of that weird, not the best-selling games are coming out, but they're fun enough and wacky enough that people are like, oh, cool, yeah, we can play this while we wait for Zelda. You like the big things.
Sure.
Like this year is not going to ramp up really until those Pokemon games are releasing in November and January. So yeah, they're
I mean, and
gonna bank
those
on
aren't the
those
games
big
I'm
time.
excited about. I really just want WarioWare and oh gosh,
Same.
forgot the other one I want. And Mario Pie. Those are the two I'm really excited about.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. So for me, I'm just like, this is a good kind of casual in between year where I don't have to go real crazy with the games that I'm playing, but it's just a good time, especially if these, not WarioWare, unfortunately won't have online, but with Mario Golf and not Super Mario Party, Mario Party Superstars. Can they get any more confusing? With those two being online, it's just fun to, hang out, do some wacky gaming with friends, and yeah, just have a good time.
Yeah, absolutely. Speaking of games that are a good time, new Pokemon Snap also got a free update this past week. And it's got 3 new areas with 20 additional Pokemon that weren't available in the main release of the game. I thought this was really cool, too. This was something that kind of came out of nowhere. I don't think there had been any confirmation of DLC coming in the future.
Mm-hmm.
So this definitely...
No, there wasn't.
Yeah, so this kind of came as a surprise. Wow. I really, really enjoyed New Pokemon Snap. I didn't 100% it like I planned on just because I got distracted by a few other games and like wanted to get back to Mass Effect. But like this is another example of what I was talking about with Mario Golf, where that's a game I really enjoy. I have had all intentions of coming back and putting more time into it. But I was just kind of waiting for a lull, in my schedule and like the mood for a slower game again. And this is a perfect reason to look at it again and be like, oh, maybe now's the time to jump back in, right? Because not only is there new stuff for me to unlock and do, there's also that conversation has been kind of reignited, you know? Like you see all the people that you know in the Nintendo space talking about this game again or playing this game again, right? Like friend of the show, Sierra Plus Ultra was like streaming it when it came out on release day again, you know? So it's like, it's back on my mind, and seeing those screenshots and seeing the new levels and stuff gets me excited to want to go jump back in and, you know, and kind of, I'm like showing the trailer right now for the folks on YouTube, and, you know, it's like, you can see there's like a Gyarados jumping out of this waterfall. We got Squirtle riding on a Blastoise, like all kinds of cool stuff, you know? There's like,
That's so classic though.
oh yeah,
Like
right? Like,
Gyarados in the first game where you shoot the Magikarp through and he just pops out. That's great.
yeah, I love that. And like, it looks like there's a thing where you're gonna get shrunk, and like all the Pokemon are giant, and I don't know, like it looks really cool.
Yeah, I'm pumped. I mean, this was like a bedtime game for me for a little while, where I was just like, all right, I'm going to bed. I'm gonna go, because you know it's pretty casual. It's on rails. It's not the fastest. It's not like an on-rail shooter where it gets pretty intense in moments. But it was just nice for me to like turn out the lights, cozy in with some Pokemon Snap, and I don't know why I kind of left it, but I didn't like finish the main story. So I do want to get back to it. And I think there's still spaces that I wanted to that I haven't unlocked yet, like maps and things. So now I'm just like, oh, great. There's 3 more that I have to get after this. I better get on that.
Yeah.
So yeah, for me, it feels like, oh yeah, I can get back into this. I need to make it my nighttime game again.
Definitely. Yeah, because I think I unlocked all the levels, but I don't think I unlocked like nighttime on the last couple ones, or like the leveled up and stuff. So like I've been to all the main levels, I think, from the original release, but I definitely haven't seen all that content. So I had a good chunk of stuff left to do anyway. And the fact that they added like 3 whole levels is, I think the original one had like 9 or 10 maybe. So that's like a pretty substantial update.
Yeah, that's a good 30% right there.
Yeah, and it's free, so I love that. So yeah,
Best price.
Nintendo, keep up that trend of just giving me free updates to games that I already liked and was like happy with, because that's pretty legit for me. I'm very, very stoked, because I mean there was a lot of conversation, I think, around this game in particular about like, is it worth the $60 price tag? And you know, I think that there's a conversation to be had there, right? Like, I felt like I got my money's worth, but I could understand how someone would not feel that way. But I feel like them adding a DLC update that adds like 30% additional content is really significant, and I think that helps make a case for the fact that it was worth the price, right? Especially if they're going to do that. If they do that even one more time, that's a huge amount of content that came out post-launch for free.
I mean, you can make the other argument, though, that it wasn't worth the price until they added the update, and maybe the update was to counter the fact that the game wasn't selling as well as they hoped.
I don't know.
And so
I don't think they could have made these levels that quickly, you know?
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, you're probably right. But I mean, it's just strange, because with Mario Golf, they told you before the game even came out there's going to be an update straight after. So why not do the same thing with new Pokemon Snap?
I don't know. Maybe they wanted to have it be something that surprised people, you know, or have it be like a thing like this where it getting a free update out of nowhere is probably a bigger piece of news.
Yeah. I also think maybe it could have tied in with the Pokemon 25-year thing, because I know that's this year. Maybe they wanted to do some kind of announcement alongside that, but it didn't work out or whatever, and so it just became another one of those trailers on a tweet releases.
Yeah, and the weird situation with this one is I have a friend who binged Pokemon Snap really hard, like the first weekend it came out, and by the end she was just like, the map looks a little empty. Like, I feel like they could add some more levels on here. And so there were people out there who were thinking there might be some DLC. I think most of us suspected like a paid DLC thing.
That's
but
what
to
I
see
expected.
them come in free, that's a huge thing. Yeah.
Yeah, like I was kind
Yeah.
of thinking they would have like a paid upgrade that would add like 50% of the game's content, like additional stuff, you know, and have it be a pretty sizable update that would justify maybe like a $20 price tag or something like that. But the idea
Yeah.
that they're giving us one of this size for free, again, like if they give us another free update of this size, that's pretty big. But I mean, even if they had a paid update after this, I think that would be okay in my mind. Because this is a pretty big chunk for nothing. So yeah,
I wonder if you could do the paid update alongside the next generation, like when Legends comes out next year. You add some of that content in.
they add a time machine. It's like, yes, we've discovered time travel, motherfuckers. We've added it to the device. Now you can go take pictures of the past. And it's like,
I feel like you could do it as like a Jurassic Park kind of angle, you know, like we've opened up, we've managed to bioengineer the DNA and we've brought back these old Pokemon kind of things, and maybe you get someone who looks like Richard Ambra with a crazy
Yeah.
piece of amber on his cane to tell you that he spared no expense when he made the park.
Yeah, and they already Honey, I Shrunk the Kids us, so that's one thing.
You're making a
But on
strong
top of that,
case,
like
Chewie.
Dialga and Palkia, they're like what, the lords of space and time, so I think they could shift some things around.
It's not unheard of by any stretch. I love the idea of like someone in the Pokemon universe discovering the power of time travel and being like, what should we do with that? Send a photographer to take pictures, which I mean is maybe not the craziest idea to be like, let's go and study the past. But like that you would like send this kid in like a robot car to just drive through. And it's like, you're fucking up the whole timeline. Like everyone's going to think this kid is an alien and immediately murder him. So, yeah, looking forward to talking about that story development when the DLC comes out, the next one. But I'm sure we'll have some impressions on this after Chewie and I get a chance to get some hands on with it. All right, so I wanted to kick it to this next one, which is less a piece of news and more something I kind of want to just use as a jumping off point. Because Chewie, you were you had a little guest appearance this past week over on Game Explain to be talking about Nintendo teasing the future of Animal Crossing New Horizons. And of course, as everyone knows, you are the one true Animal Crossing fan. And, you know, the Nook Gang is here in full force out here on YouTube to chat about this one. So I don't want to like rehash that conversation too much. You know, folks can go listen to that video that you did with Game Explain, which, you know, we'll link to in the description down below. But, you know, something I took a listen to it, and something that you had said that really stuck out to me was kind of talking about wanting to have more like mini games and getting more updates that allow you to interact with other players a little bit more, because I think that would be one of the number one things that I would want to see come to the game, like for me to try to have an incentive to get back into it. Because I really miss, like, my favorite experience that we've had on Twitch was at the peak of Animal Crossing, when we would just do Animal Crossing streams on Thursdays, and we had like 8 people on an island every night just hanging out, playing games, goofing around, trading items and stuff. And, you know, obviously that's only going to be so sustainable, right? Like, you need to do more things, I think, to keep people engaged. And I feel like I definitely am with you in terms of wanting more reasons to invite my friends to my island, you know? Mm-hmm. So I kind of wanted to just like throw it out there. Like, what are some things you'd like to see for that? You know, if you had your wish list of like anything you could bring in future updates to Animal Crossing, what would they be?
Yeah, I mean, multiplayer is a big one for sure. I remember early on somebody pointed out there's like 8 chairs in the airport. And so we thought, oh, maybe there will be like some way we all travel somewhere together. You know, that just seems like too convenient of a thing. But yeah, like mini games would be really fun. When we first saw that it was going to be 8 players, I just thought, oh man, are they gonna update some of these mini games so it's like 4v4? Is this gonna get like Splatoon? And so that was exciting to me. But just in general, like I think the game itself is really design oriented. So for me, a big update that kind of feeds into the gameplay loop that we have in New Horizons is something like Happy Home Designer related.
Mm.
Something, my idea has always been like resident services expands. Lottie, the little otter from Happy Home Designer, is now a worker there, and she lets you. Customize things a lot more freely, like change the architecture of buildings so you can go with a more stylized look for your island, maybe even decorate some of your villagers' homes. The biggest thing for me was always like their homes, especially the first five that move in, kind of just stay the same and they're not very interesting. It'd be really cool to like expand their homes, add rooms to them, decorate those, and give them a little bit more character. So yeah, I don't know. For me, it's just like it's such a design-oriented game with New Horizons that I think that would be kind of the best fit for what we already have.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I would love to have the ability to like control a little bit more in terms of I think like you said the architecture I think would be really cool. Something
Hmm.
that I would love to see would be maybe some more introduction of some like dialogue updates, some maybe some additional like social sim stuff because I think something that I remember
Hmm.
you commenting on that I connected with was that like Animal Crossing, I think, used to feel like more oriented around the socialization, and I think this game is so oriented on like gameplay systems, like decorating your island and doing the terraforming and some of those other things, which are all cool and like those are very welcome additions. But it's made me feel like dialogue is kind of taken a back seat. Like
Yeah.
I don't know because there's a chance that like I'm looking back on older games with like rose colored glasses and maybe misremembering how much dialogue there was or wasn't. But like, I feel like in Animal Crossing 1, you could talk to the same villager multiple times in a day and not get repeat
Hmm.
dialogue. Um, and not feel like you were getting the same dialogue over and over after a few months of play. Whereas, like,
Yeah.
the thing that I remember I noticed the most was the last time I tried to play the game. It'd been months since I had logged in, right? And like every one of my villagers made like one comment about that, and then it was kind of like, oh yeah, cool. It's just the same dialogue that I've heard you say a
Oh
million
yeah,
times.
yeah, same.
And like I want to feel like they are like their personalities are growing or changing on some level. Like I want there to be more, interaction between me and them and like if I give them gifts, if I am mean to them, whatever, like I want more of that, And I don't think it needs to be super deep to be more rewarding than it is right now.
Hmm.
I
Yeah.
think you can do the kind of thing that they do in Stardew Valley, where there's like levels of hearts that
Exactly.
people have, and the more gifts you get, the closer you get to them, the more likely they are to come to see you or want to do things with you. Maybe you have like social events that happen with the two of you. Um, I also kind of feel that something that would keep me coming back is what they did, something similar to like Littlewood, where maybe some other villagers have like arguments between themselves and one of them wants to move to a different part of the island or wants to be closer to a shop or that kind of thing. I loved that aspect and kind of being
Yeah.
forced to plan out my island and move things around all the time. And everyone had a list of desires, and as you completed like that first list, you get to the second list and you realize, oh, now I've got to move them again because they are near the shop, but now they want to be like 3 spaces away from such and such. So I feel like maybe you could do that kind of thing and bring back some of that stuff from the first week of the game where you had to build furniture for people for their houses, and maybe people were constantly asking for things and wanting things to keep their friendships with you.
Because, like, that's the thing I feel like is super toned down in this game, too, is, like, when I think back on the original Animal Crossing, like, one of the main things was talking to someone and they'd be like, oh, can you do me a favor? Like, can you run this errand for me? Like, could you go deliver this?
Yeah.
I borrowed this from this other villager. Could you bring it back? Or, oh, I want to give this villager a gift. Could you get it? Or, like, do you want this? Like, do you want to trade? Like, there were so many more interactions like that. And even just them being like, oh, yeah, I borrowed this from Kiki. Like, she's so nice. Like, yeah, we were hanging out. Like, it made the place feel more like a community, you know, than like, and it's weird because there's more interactions literally than there used to be, but like they feel shallow in some ways, you know?
Yeah, I missed that from the first game because there was literally an option in every conversation where you're like, "Do you need any help with something? Can I do you a favor?" And that would basically that was an easy way to just like have a task to do. And it's usually rewarding because items are so hard to get in that first game and they're giving you stuff for doing all of it. So you're like, "Oh, I definitely need to finish this so I can get something cool, you know." The weird thing, I've kind of been working on a video talking about villagers in New Horizons, part of like just a long review of the game. And the thing that I've noticed with New Horizons is that the villagers are designed in such a way that like your first conversation with them is usually like a brief hello. They'll comment on something you did yesterday, where you've been. They'll just say weather's nice. You know, it's very like small talk type of conversation. And when you return kind of later in the day, like say you log in at night, like now that you've already had that conversation, they open up a lot more. So it's really unfortunate that in some ways it like captures real life a bit where you're just like, you know, say you're walking to work or so and you just say hey to the same people on your walk, but it's like a quick hello. That's kind of what they're trying to get out of it. But a lot of people are turned off of it because they're like, oh, my villager said the same thing. Now, well, should I talk to them again? No, probably not. So yeah, it's a weird little mechanic where they're trying to capture this real life walking through and doing your chores, and then later you have some time to sit and hang out. Which luckily for me, like I got that experience from it because I just played all the time. I'd log in first thing in the morning, say hey to everybody, and then later at night I'd log in again and I'd be like, oh, this is some much better dialogue here. Yeah.
Yeah.
So
And
I want to see more of it though. Like I want people to get the chance to see a lot of the cool dialogue in there.
Steve, you just tried to say something, but you're muted.
Yeah, I was just gonna say, half the time I just stopped talking to them because it was just I knew I was gonna get the same response. So, and I was just like, I genuinely just can't be bothered to listen to the same piece of text again. It got more tedious than seeing the most metal of all fish 100 times a day. And like that was grating on me towards the end of my play with Animal Crossing.
Yeah, I get it for sure. So like if they just like offered a little bit more variety, and the most recent update, I do feel like half the time the villagers do give you something a little bit more interesting. You'll still see like a lot of the repeats from Days Gone, but yeah, there are a little bit more chances to see some more interesting dialogue. I tend to see it a lot with the peppy villagers for some reason.
Something that I know I was kind of, I guess, a little frustrated by too is that like I know on Wild World there was like a pretty like deep backstories for a lot of characters if you would take the time to get to know them and chat with them more, and like I just want more of that stuff, you know. Like I don't think that the whole game needs to be that. Like I like that they've reoriented some of it to be more about, you know, some of the other things you can do, but yeah, I don't know. I think that there are lessons that the game can learn from some of the older entries to really bring things to the next level, you know, because I definitely love New Horizons. I do think it's probably the best Animal Crossing, but I have such nostalgia for the original, I think, because of some of the weird things about it that have kind of gotten sanded down over the years, you know?
Yeah, yeah. I have the same thing. And I do think like that would fit in really well with like what Steve was saying of the Littlewood mechanics where, people have their likes and dislikes and preferences and you kind of like work their houses around that or the furniture you make for them. So I would love to see that. That was one of my favorite things from Littlewood for sure.
All right. So, I mean, of course, whenever these updates do come to Animal Crossing, we'll be here to talk about them. Of course, Chewy will be screaming about them from the rooftops all across the internet. So, I hope that we get some more of those kinds of updates. But part of me feels that some of the things that we want are things that are going to have to wait for the next entry when we're in our 40s or whatever. So,
and I don't think you're wrong either. So I'm used to waiting a long time for Animal Crossing things.
yeah, it is what it is. So let's jump into the question block. We got a ton of questions for this first episode, and I am so stoked to get into a couple of these. Thank you to everybody who wrote in. Of course, remember, if you want to do that, you can join our Discord where we have a couple of channels where you can send in your questions for each specific show, or you can write into us questions at FlipScreen.Games with your thoughts. And sometimes we tweet about them. A bunch of these came from Twitter, too. So go follow us on the tweets. Oh, we should probably put our social media handles in our plugs, huh, Steve?
What, FlipScreen Games?
Yeah, we haven't done that one. Good.
Yeah, we have.
Week 2.
Do you know, did you see I put in the list? Oh, it was there. It was there.
I don't know what you're talking about, so no.
I had it in the list of like plugs, and you've deleted it and changed it for your own stuff.
Oh, good. Cool. So it's my fault. Love that.
Yeah.
Love that for me. Anyway, so this first question comes from friend of the show, Parker Deal, who wrote in and said, I was officially the first question ever on the podcast. So my question is, can I be the first question on Nintendo Knows? So that is a multi-layered joke. But yes, Parker, you can. Here, you were the first question. I answered it. Look at that. You did it, bud. So proud of you. Yeah, of course, Parker of Fanatics 4, friends of the show. Love those guys. Parker, really excited to record your show directly to you with you tomorrow. If you're already listening to this, we already did it. So go listen to me and Steve on Directly to You. We were on the episode that aired on Saturday. So go check that out. I'm sure it was a good time.
And let's not gloss over the Nintendo Knows. This is not going to become a thing.
It's not going to become a thing, but it's super funny.
Yeah.
And I forgot to say earlier, shout out to Ray, who did the art for Nintendo Noise. On the background, you can see all these amazing, adorable little icons that you can see on our background. Were all created by Ray, who also made a solid Photoshop of a parody version of our show that you can go find on Twitter. So shout out to Ray, who also happened to write in for this next question. So Ray wrote in and said, which noise is the title referring to? What's your favorite Nintendo noise? I love this question.
Me too.
So I
think
Oh, okay.
I think the noise is just the noise that we make about Nintendo, right? It's just,
Yes.
That's, I think, the concept that we had when we were coming up with a name. And to draw back the curtains, every other fucking name for a Nintendo podcast was gone. We were like, we went through an entire list of them, and then we got to noise, and we were like, shit, no one's got Nintendo noise? Yeah, we're having that one. And then we just went, we settled on it. It was perfect. And as for my favorite Nintendo noise, the one that I think is quintessential Nintendo is the Game Boy. Ding!
Yep.
Whenever it goes.
Yeah.
Whenever it goes, I get nostalgic. It's great.
That's my number one, I would say. The Switch click is also a great one. Great piece of sound effects.
I like the click. I like the Game Boy. Not the Game Boy, the GameCube. That one. And, yeah. But not the one where it's a baby when you hold Z. That's just terrifying. No. And the DS tap. The dun when it starts up.
That's a good one, yeah.
That was always a good one.
Yeah, I've got two that make me the most nostalgic. One is Animal Crossing GameCube, the little voice that says Nintendo. Right at the beginning. Yeah. That's one. And then the Game Boy Advance startup whenever you turn that on. Very like
It's like
yeah,
it's like
it's
this
very like
angelic little
bright and
chorus,
chimey, right?
and like
But
the
that
little
one, like,
rainbow, like of the Game Boy.
uh-huh.
Beautiful.
Yeah, exactly. That I played so much Game Boy Advance on like road trips through Mexico that I was hearing that constantly,
What
and
was
it
your
just takes me
favorite
back.
GBA game?
Funny enough, it's Bomberman Tournament. It had this
Okay.
really
Okay.
strange story mode that was like you collected, it was like a creature collecting story mode that was unlike any other Bomberman that I've ever played. It's so strange.
I love that.
I've
Um,
never heard of this.
yeah, Bomberman Tournament. I'm pretty sure that's it. It's a weird game. I don't think many people have played it, but it's great. It's got a fun little thing going on. And it still has the multiplayer too, with link cables, of course, but I love that.
I had one other one that came to mind, which was for Pokemon. I think it's only in Gen 1, but it might be the same sound in Gen 2. But it's the sound whenever you press A to like enter a menu or something, or like make a selection, and it's like this very like chink. It's like a very like thick little, it sounds like a coin going in a slot or something. Like,
Mentioned that before. I can't remember when you mentioned that to me, but you've mentioned that you really like that
it's so
sound. Have you
satisfying.
sampled it for something?
I did, yeah. I
That must be
sampled
what it was, yeah.
My original YouTube channel, there was an intro to a Let's Play show where like I wrote a jingle, and then it had like a press start that was going, and that little sound would happen, and I was like, it's the best sound. I love that
that's
fucking
nice.
sound.
It's really interesting. None of us picked a Mario sound. There's no like Mario coin or anything like that.
I mean,
It really, I think,
a lot of
ages
those
us that
are
we
great,
didn't grow up
though.
with the SNES.
Cause like I have plenty of those I could call out, you know, like one of my favorites is this is something I've sampled. I've sampled a lot of Mario sounds in beats and chiptune songs, actually, but it's the it's from Super Mario 64. It's when Peach says Mario, and it's like super compressed, but like I love that one. And I love the oof sound, that the grunt that he makes in that game when he gets really hurt. And he's like, ooh.
Yeah.
Sounds like he's just getting hit in the gut. Like, it's so funny.
My favorite Mario sound, since we're on it, is Shy Guy's like meow thing where he's like wow.
That's a good one. I like his little snicker
No, I
too.
like I like the is it the I think it's the thwomp. Or it's either the thwomp or the womp. It's like whenever he moves, it's so funny.
Yeah, it's a good one. It's a good one. So this next one comes from one of our Patreon producers, that Doc guy, who wrote in and said, "Why hasn't Nintendo done anything about Zelda 35? I want my Majora's Mask on Switch, Steve."
I'm so sorry, I don't know, but I want Ocarina of Time on Switch, so I can play that in a very easy way, because the setup we had to stream that, my like computer melts every time I do it, because I'm running that and OBS, and I just basically need a new computer. But if it was on Switch, it would be significantly easier.
It's just like, does Nintendo hate money? You know, like, I don't know, like, I understand that there's like a timing, there's cadence, you don't want to put out too much Zelda stuff at once, you want to space some things out maybe, but it's like, if you put a Zelda trilogy on a disc and made it a limited release like you did with Mario last year, it would sell hand over fist. And I feel like if you would put out the Wind Waker and, you know, Skyward, I mean, we're getting Skyward Sword now, but Wind Waker and Twilight Princess and, you know, those HD releases that we had on Wii U, like, why are these not available? Why don't we have a port of Ocarina of Time and Majora's Mask from the 3DS up-resed to be, you know, to look okay on the Switch? Like, why don't these things exist? It really just doesn't make any sense to me.
I think the big thing is just like so many of their anniversaries fall on the same year. Like, isn't it both Donkey Kong and Metroid this year too? And Animal Crossing is 20 years this year.
And Pokemon's 25.
Yeah, okay, but like, so what? Put them all
I
out.
wish they would
Put them all out.
Yeah.
Make it the most lit year ever.
Yeah, I mean, I'm down. Like, put them all out, or at least like make it very clear like you're focusing on one this year. Like, if they just said like we're going all out Metroid this year, I'm like, cool. Metroid fans need this. Go for it.
Yeah, I don't know. I just like, it does bother me because I think not acknowledging them is not like some, I'm not going to sit here and be like, I'm offended. You don't care about your legacy. Like, it's not that serious, but it's so easy to just put some stuff out, to be like, here's some swag. Here's a cool line of shirts. Here's an update to Animal Crossing. We're bringing back the villagers, the Zelda villagers, right? Like, just something. Just give us a little something.
Or even just like make the eShop Zelda themed and then like do a Zelda 35.
Put it on a
and
rotation.
Just do the same treatment you did.
Like every time I log in, it's one of the 5 that's having an anniversary this year, Like, I don't know. Like, I definitely hear what you're saying, Chewy, where like they probably can't give them all the same level of fanfare that we get for Mario. That's fine. Not all those franchises deserve the same level of fanfare as Mario.
And they don't all make that much.
Some of them do, though. And
yeah, some of them.
And if they
makes
don't,
as much as Mario.
And maybe not make as much, but like deserve it. Like Zelda deserves something for its anniversary, right? Zelda is a marquee title.
It depends what you classify as an anniversary, though, because I've never heard of 35 really being that celebrated. Like 25, yes.
That's
30, yes. It's like 35. It was just like they plucked it out of the air because they wanted to sell some games, some Mario games.
Zeros and
I know,
fives.
but like it's not a thing. No one celebrates like all the big 3, 5.
Oh boy, Zelda's got to go get a prostate exam. Let's celebrate.
Oh my God, Pete.
All right, so this one comes from another one of our Patreon supporters, Trendy Brendy, who wrote in and said, Petey, Stevie, and Chewy E. How y'all holding up? I got a couple questions today. I like that, Brendy. For starters, who all is playing Pokemon Unite? I know for sure Pete is, but has Steve or Chewy tried it out yet? I tried it with my friends and just didn't jive with it, but I'm glad to see so many people enjoying themselves and complaining in unison online about Zapdos, the best bird Pokemon. Hell yes, Zapdos is the best bird Pokemon. Shout out. Any characters you find yourself sticking to as a main? Love to hear your thoughts. And there's a second question, but we'll answer all of those first. So I know Steve hasn't tried it yet. Chewy, have you tried Pokemon Unite?
Yeah. I've at first, I'd say the first week I played daily.
Okay.
And then things have gotten too busy in real life for me to keep it up, but I was super into it. For me, I've never really played a MOBA too much or anything. I've like dabbled in League of Legends, just like played a couple games. I was like, oh man, I don't know, this is a lot for me. Pokemon, it feels pretty simple. It feels like that, but at times I just get so frustrated where I'm like, I have so many points that I can't score because you guys are just in my way right now.
Let's play together. You got to play with people. If you play with people you actually know, it's such a better experience.
Yeah, so I need to do like actual team play and everything, but
I'm I'm trying to stream this, like maybe for our first stream back. Maybe I know Sierra wants to stream it together. We've already got a triple. I know AJ's playing. I know a bunch of people playing this game. Let's do this.
Down.
Let's get a 5Q. Steve said he would let me teach him how to play a MOBA. I think this is the time.
Yeah. So for me, it's like all pretty new. I didn't know how well it would click with me, but I mean, I liked it enough, and I kept playing that whole week. At least went through like the daily missions each day, and made sure I got like all the new clothes because I was like, I'm not paying money for this. I'm not gonna spend anything. But yeah, I've been enjoying playing as Ninetales and kind of like the ranged attackers, basically. Yeah. I think Ninetales and Score Bunny kind of fall in that category. So, and I've always liked fire types, even though it's ice type Ninetales. I'm still like your fire type in my heart.
You're grandfathered in.
Yeah. So yeah, it's fun. I definitely need more coaching though, because I honestly don't know what I'm doing.
Let's go, bud. Like I've been playing MOBAs for like 7 years. I'm in. Let's go. I will teach you the ways of the warrior. So I talked about this game for probably like 30 minutes on the FlipScreen Games podcast this week, so I'm not going to monopolize too much of this to talk about it. If you want to hear my full thoughts on how I'm getting on with it, you can go listen to that episode that Steve and I did. But in terms of characters I'm sticking to as a main, I would say my main is Lucario. He's probably my best. I think I have my highest win percentage with him. I really like his kit. I gravitate towards a lot of those kinds of characters, like the attackers that are like, the engagers, characters that have dashes and have the ability to like jump in, get in a fight, and then ideally jump out and survive. And like I'm really enjoying Talonflame after the buffs that he got. I was playing ranked with him last night, and I got on a 3-game tear and jumped like a few ranks, which was really tight. I was like jungling with him, and I was like, okay, these buffs are insane, and I'm taking full advantage of this before they nerf them. But yeah, so I like a lot of those kind of characters. Like I did Cramorant as well. I like Syndrant as well. Pikachu's good. Charizard was probably my first main, but I haven't really played it too much lately. But he's got some buffs too, so we'll see. But I'm way addicted to this game. I fucking love it. So I'm let's go. We're gonna play. All right, so next question. Second question, and an Animal Crossing themed one to commemorate the Haken resident on this cast. What kinds of promotional events would you like to see hit New Horizons? We only really got the Mario 35 stuff, but I think it's an opportunity lost to not do little furniture events the same way that Smash Ultimate gets Spirit events. I'd love to see some Breath of the Wild 2 clothing added, like maybe Link's new arm, or maybe an Emmy unit from Metroid Dread to stand behind my astronaut in my space room. Can't wait for more episodes in the future. Brendy. That's a huge thing that I feel like is a missed opportunity in Animal Crossing. We kind of like lightly mentioned it when we were talking about the Zelda 35th stuff, but I feel like that's just a thing that should be with everything. Like when a new game comes out, there should have been a Pokemon event when Pokemon Snap came out, right? There should have been, I'm trying to think of other games that have come out since Animal Crossing.
Not a lot. That's the problem. Clubhouse games that come out after Animal Crossing who have that like had a chessboard.
There's got to be something else that I'm not thinking of. But Zelda, I mean, there's the Donkey Kong 40th anniversary. We talked about that. Metroid Dread's coming out later this year, like Brendy called out. I feel like every time Nintendo game comes out, there should be some commemorative item or moment in Animal Crossing to celebrate it. Period.
Yeah, and I don't think it necessarily has to be tied to Nintendo. Monster Hunter's had stuff in the past, and they've had both Rise and Stories out since that. So
that's a console exclusive. I think that counts enough. Like, do something.
Yeah, and I mean, I really thought we might get like something with the new amiibo that came out for Monster Hunter Stories, because we got like Feline in the past, just an Animal Crossing Villager version, and I'm trying to think. There was a whole set of items too associated with Monster Hunter, and yeah, oh man. The wackiest thing was Isabelle and Rossetti were in like Monster Hunter Generations 4, I think, on 3DS. Yeah, like
that's so weird.
They use them as skins for your little what is it, Calico?
Yeah, whatever the cat.
Yeah, because it's a pal, right?
Palico, right? Yeah.
Yeah. So yeah, I would love to see more crossover stuff like that, especially weird ones like Monster Hunter. I'll send you guys the trailer because it's funky.
That's nasty.
Yeah, definitely do.
I feel like I would also this is something we called out a while ago, and I don't remember if we said this on a podcast or if it was a stream, but I feel like it was the three of us talking about this. So you remember how back in the original Animal Crossing, you had those NES games that you could get in game. I feel like there should be an item that's the Nintendo and the Super Nintendo, and like you can put them in a room and click on it, and it'll just let you play any of the games on Nintendo Switch Online, like and use Animal Crossing as a portal for it.
I want that, and I also want the arcade cabinets to do something like isn't there an actual Donkey Kong arcade cabinet?
Yeah, rather than a
for
generic
the Donkey Kong
arcade cabinet.
40th anniversary. Yeah, just like put Donkey Kong in the game and I go up to it and I can play Donkey Kong rather than it just looking like I'm sat there doing nothing.
Yeah, I think that would be really cool. And I understand like that they monetize those things, so they maybe don't want to like just give them away for free. But like,
well, I mean, why not tie it behind like the subscription? Say subscribers get this item, right?
Yeah. And and I feel like
Yeah, like the exclusive rug you get as a Nintendo Switch Online subscriber. 'Cause they're
Yes.
so generous with that.
It's not a great rug.
No, it really isn't.
No, it's not.
But I also feel like that would be like that would play into what we were talking about earlier about features that we'd want to see if like we want more things to do with people who visit us on our island. Like that would be awesome, right? Like imagine if okay, yeah, hey, we're streaming Animal Crossing, Chewy's on my island and we've been doing whatever we're doing and we've got a lull. We're like, "Oh, why don't we go back to my house and like, pop on Excite Bike,
Golf.
or golf."
Yeah.
Yeah, whatever. That would be cool. Like that would be a fun thing to be able to do.
Yeah.
I don't know.
I think I would personally play all of those games a lot more if they were accessible through Animal Crossing. It wasn't until recently that I spent a lot of time on the SNES app playing through Super Metroid. I'd never played that game before, and I
Nice.
was like, you know what? Metroid Dread's coming out. It's time I give it a go. And yeah, it was a good time. So if it were on Animal Crossing, though, I'd be there all day.
Definitely.
I bet I'd get so much more distracted though. I'd be like, oh, I'm playing a little bit of Metroid now. I want to hop off and see what my village is doing. I would get nowhere in those games.
I don't know. It'd be nice to have the option though.
Yeah.
Yeah, definitely.
All right, so let's jump into our main topic. So we talked earlier briefly about how Nintendo's quarterly earnings report had been released this past week, and the Nintendo Switch is slowly but surely approaching 90 million units sold, which is huge. But the news did come that Nintendo Switch sales, are slow comparatively this year. There's an overall decrease of around 21.7% for the last quarter. So, obviously, that is, that headline feels like it means something, but when you put it in the context of Animal Crossing New Horizons came out last year and the Switch sold insane, like launch year numbers, during a global pandemic, it makes a little bit more sense, right? Like it's not doom and gloom.
Yeah, and like 2 new consoles came out last quarter, so
Right.
I can kind of expected not many Switches to sell. Plus, how many people do you think really latched onto these Switch Pro rumors that maybe would have bought a second Switch? Like people like us who were thinking, I might get a Switch Lite as a second model, or I might get a second Switch because my Joy-Cons are running down. I want that one with the new battery life because I've got a launch model, and put it off because they were waiting for the Switch Pro. I know I was genuinely considering like maybe I'll get a second Switch, and just didn't. And I'm still hooked on the drinking the Kool-Aid, hoping that 2022 is going to be the year that the Switch Pro is finally announced. But who knows at this point.
Yeah, I think the big thing is like we didn't really have the huge game for sure. Like Animal Crossing last year definitely carried them. I think they were like represented maybe 40% of their earnings last year, which is I wish I could make that much money. That's amazing.
Yeah, it's wild.
Yeah. So, yeah, I think just the game that people are waiting for hasn't come out yet, and unfortunately, it's not going to come out till probably next year when it's Breath of the Wild 2. I think that's probably the big thing people are waiting on.
Well, and to your point, Pokemon's around the corner too, right? And those
yeah,
are big
Pokemon
sellers.
always sells. Yeah, it's going to sell a big amount, but I guess I wonder how
It's
these
not
will be
Animal Crossing
received.
levels though.
No, but like it doesn't need to be. The worst selling Pokemon game is like still
A
like
really good selling.
it's like
Pokemon
10 million
game.
units still, you
Yeah,
know? Like it's
it
still a
is,
lot
yeah.
of fucking units and you have 2 Pokemon games coming out in a 6-month span. So both
Yeah,
of those
both.
sell like they're supposed to. That's a lot of copies sold.
Let's Go Pikachu, 13.57 million right now. Pokemon Sword and Shield, 21.85 million. So
And
I don't think.
Isn't Let's Go Pikachu that's only half of it though cuz Eevee has a similar number, doesn't it?
I think it's both of them though
Well,
combined.
okay.
They combine both of them.
Yeah. I'm just looking at their like sales data for all the combined titles. So
Okay.
yeah, I mean it's gonna sell like 10 million, at least.
Minimum.
I would guess. Yeah,
And Arceus
minimum.
will probably sell closer to like 15 or, more maybe.
Yeah, yeah, and I think that one's probably the one people are a little bit more interested in just because they're like, oh man, kind of open world. It's got this whole new vibe to it. I think it's
I know
gonna.
that's the one I think is gonna hook me in
Yeah.
because I haven't played a Pokemon game since Let's Go Pikachu, and then before that it was probably something on the GBA. I
Yeah.
don't even
Side
remember.
note, the Let's Go games, the Pokeball controller made that experience for me. I love that thing.
Yeah, I loved that controller. Yeah, and then like you captured one in it and you shook it and it make the noise, and
Uh-huh.
you could like
Uh-huh.
take it out and like do steps with it and then bring it back. I loved that thing. It was great.
Best controller they ever made. I was so bummed it didn't work with Sword and Shield. So yeah, I think just like we've been in that big gap for Nintendo where they haven't had that huge release that's gonna carry the sales up, but they'll recover from that because this is also like their financial year starts in March. It goes to March 2022, and a lot of the big games that I'm sure they're hoping or banking on are coming out November. Like they're coming out in these upcoming months, basically.
Yeah.
So the holiday season still has to happen, and I mean maybe they're not as on track as last year, but once again, like last year really got carried by that Animal Crossing, which happened right at the beginning of that fiscal year.
Yeah. So then they were kind of able to coast on that.
Hmm.
So I want to use this as an opportunity to pull in a question here. This one comes from AJ, another friend of the show from Fanatics 4, who wrote in and said, do you think Switch OLED will be enough to push sales to the 100 million mark, or do you think time will be the bigger factor? So I think it will. I don't know that it needed to be. Like, I don't think that Switch OLED is the deciding factor for them hitting 100,000, period. Like, I think they were going to hit that number either way. Because look at it right now, they've officially outsold the PS3 and Xbox 360. They're just a few million units shy of outselling the Wii. And I think that they probably would have hit that number this holiday season either way. I have a hard time thinking that they wouldn't move 10 million Switches between now and the end of this fiscal year, even if the OLED Switch wasn't coming out. Between holiday bundles, between there being 2 new Pokemon games on the horizon, there is going to be the Mario Party release. Like, that's something that I could see moving the needle a bit because it is also like classic Mario Party stuff, which everybody loves.
I don't know. Those games just don't ever sell as well as you think they do. They're like the like dud of the family, just the outcast. Like some people love them, other people just like, oh, it's like, what is this? This isn't a Mario game.
I mean,
Yeah,
that said, though, Super Mario Party's in this top 10 list
It
at
is in the
15
like
million
top 10,
units.
yeah.
right.
It is,
I
yeah.
mean, Super Mario Party's lifetime sales are they're nothing to scoff at, So like, you're right that it's not Mario, it's not a huge system seller, but the idea that game that is probably going to sell a few million copies could sell a handful of Switches to move us towards that number that we're already really close to. That's kind of all I'm saying. Is I think with the fact that OLED Switch is coming, they will definitely push past that 100 million mark easily, I think, by the end of this year.
Yeah, yeah. So to like answer AJ's question, I'm right there with you. I think time was kind of the bigger factor there, not so much the OLED. I think it was going to reach 100 million without it. I think a much bigger factor would definitely be like a Switch Pro.
Yeah.
I think a lot more people will hop on that than this, but this one seems like it's that nice in between model that I kind of suspect it'll get price dropped to be the regular $300 model eventually, if they do a Pro. But
I think so.
yeah,
And then they'll probably phase out the base model.
yeah. So I think from my perspective, I think it was gonna hit 100 million, regardless. But console sales, like they always kind of trend in this direction, where the biggest years tend to be 3 and 4, where people have seen all that buildup of the game catalog. They've seen like, okay, they've redesigned this so it's going to be reliable. There's always that first set of consoles where you're just like, is this going to be the Red Ring thing now? Like that's
Yeah.
a big fear every time. So I'm not surprised if it's hitting that plateau where it kind of tapers off and everything. But I think it'll reach 100 million before it does that.
Yeah, I agree with you both. I think it was going to reach 100 million in this next year anyway. However, I do think the trajectory is going to be changed a lot by the OLED model. I have seen a lot of people who already have Switches upgrading
Yo,
and
I
being
am.
able to get exactly right. So getting people that already have Switches to upgrade on top of those who want a Switch anyway, and we're going to buy a Switch anyway, I think you probably will see quite a lot. I can't find the breakdown of the number of Nintendo Switch Lites sold, but I know
Mm.
they've outsold the Wii U at this point. Like in January, they were on track to outsell the Wii U. They had sold 13.56 million units, and the Switch Lite is gonna have sold more than that. It's got to have, right? More than
So
13 million Switch Lites.
yeah, I was gonna say I have an update here. It says on Wikipedia, it says as of the 31st of December 2020, the Switch Lite had sold 13.53 million units worldwide. So actually, almost
That's more than the
exactly.
Wii U.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So so if that one handheld console alone can outsell their previous console and sell 13 million in just over a year, I think the OLED model will probably do about the same. And then that takes you well over the 100,000 mark.
Yeah,
And you've beaten the Wii straight away.
I mean, yeah, which
Yeah.
is huge, right? I mean, that's their best selling console to date. So
And the biggest selling console to date, right? Or is the
no,
PS4 outsold the
it's
Wii
I
now?
think it's actually the third. I remember we figured this out once before. I'm pretty sure it goes. No, I think it's second. I think it goes PS2 then Wii, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay.
But
The DS
I
is
think
like
it
way
could
up
still.
there.
I think it could. Oh yeah, the DS is way up there.
oh
You're
yeah,
right.
Yeah.
that's the thing.
154 million.
It's
Yeah.
third place if you can't if you count handheld consoles. So if you're counting handhelds, it's Wii is third place. If you're not counting handhelds, it's second place. I think is the thing. Because yeah, the DS is number 2 then. What a flex having the number two and 3 best selling consoles of all time.
They're probably gonna have number one at some point.
Yeah.
I think so. I think they got a real shot with this Switch, especially if the Switch Pro comes and we count that in the same SKU. Fucking forget about it. Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So before we hop off of this, I want to ask this question, right? With all this kind of now that we've got all this context laid out, do you two feel like Nintendo's doing enough to keep excitement around the Switch? AJ and Parker both wrote into the show. I'll take this opportunity to plug Parker's video over on the Fanatics 4 channel this week, which is about is the Switch getting stale? And I wanted to raise that question and I guess ask, do you feel like in the afterglow of Animal Crossing, when a lot of people argued that 2020 was a slow year aside from Animal Crossing, and then we come into 2021, which is kind of a similarly slow year if you're not into Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Unite and, Mario Golf. I don't know.
I kind of feel like this is to be expected. We were in the middle of, unprecedented pandemic. It's delayed a bunch of games. You can just look at 2020's lineup just slowly dwindling away as more and more games get pushed into 2022. And presumably some of those games were due to be released in 2020 that got pushed into 2021. But then on top of that, we're like midway in the generation. And this seems to happen with every console. Look at the PS4 for example. When did the majority of the games, like good games, come out? It's like at the beginning and then at the end, and you have that like dip in the middle where they're developing the sequels and developing new IP and new games and things like that. That kind of feels what Nintendo's doing at the moment. We're getting a Breath of the Wild sequel. They're no doubt working on a Mario Odyssey sequel. They're probably working already on we know they're working on a 3D Metroid, which should have come out, but obviously got restarted. So there's 3 huge games that we know are going to be coming to the Switch. So it's just a case of when. And I also feel like they were like the masters of hype with the Nintendo Directs. They really were.
Yeah.
And the fact that they just haven't had the content because of the lack of games from third-party studios due to the pandemic, all of that stuff just goes into factors that are out of their control. And I think as soon as we get those like regular Nintendo Directs back and people are hype and people are like, oh wow, is the game I'm really excited about gonna be here? I think that's when the like, oh, the Switch feels stale argument just goes out the window.
I think that problem is exacerbated by the fact that both next gen consoles are both still fresh too, right? Like they're new.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
They're still the new hotness. Most people can't even get them. So I feel like it's kind of. I think it's just the nature of the weird like way that the Wii U offset Nintendo's development cycles for consoles, so that like they're not releasing alongside the competition anymore. So like they're always probably going to have this happen, right? Depending on, I guess, when the new Switch comes out. But say that, like, they say we actually get, like, a Switch 2, right? A proper Switch 2 in 2 years, in 3 years from now. We'll be halfway through Xbox and Sony's cycle, and it'll be the new hotness, and everyone will be like, man, they're kicking their fucking teeth in. Like, what the hell? And then in a few years, it'll be like, man, these you know, Xbox and PS5 are showing their age. When are we going to get something new? And then those will come out and we'll be like, the Switch 2 is looking a little old. And I feel like they're just on this trajectory now. But I think to the point that both of you have laid out, like, hardware is really only so interesting unless you're like a real dork. And I mean that with no malice, right? Some of us are tech dorks like that and some of us are not. But what everybody really cares about is software. And the fact that we have some of those big games on the horizon, you know, like Pokemon, like Zelda is seemingly in the next maybe 18 months. Like, you know, when those games come out, I think Steve's right that nobody's going to be saying, oh, the Switch is old. Where's the new Switch? They're going to be like, holy crap, Breath of the Wild 2, right? Or hopefully, fingers crossed, oh my God, finally the Pokemon game we've been waiting for. I don't want to hold my breath, though, because I will choke. So,
I'll throw in a perspective that I just got to experience kind of the last couple weeks. I got to see my family, and they all have kids and stuff, and every single one of them almost has their own Switch. Like my brother,
Nice.
3 kids, they each have their own. So like Nintendo has accomplished a goal that they had with the Switch laid out from the very beginning, where they didn't want to be like a single console per household type of situation. They really wanted everybody in that household to have their own Switch. And so like I'm seeing my brother, all 3 of his kids have their own Switches to go with. My niece just got one from my other part of my family, and then I have a sister and her 2 kids. One of them has a Switch, and the other is like, I think that's what I'm gonna ask for Christmas this year. So,
Nice.
like they have accomplished their goal where they've like invaded families to the extent of like every kid's gonna get their own Switch eventually.
It warms my heart when I see kids out in the wild with a Switch.
Yeah.
Because really, truly, like nothing makes me feel more like an old man than how viscerally upset I get when I see a kid playing on a phone. I'm like, that's not a real video game. I was like, you're not teaching this kid to appreciate an art form. You're just distracting them with garbage. All right, get them a Switch, okay? And when I see the kids out there, they're playing the Marios, they're playing their Pokemans. Warms your heart, really warms your heart. But yeah, I think I generally agree with you guys. I don't think that Nintendo's doing enough to keep the Switch attractive right now, but I also think that it makes sense that they're not doing that right now. I think they're in a dip right now, and you know, they have a lot that they're building towards, and I think in another year, another 2 years, maybe when all that starts to come to fruition and maybe this generation starts to wind down for the Switch, I think you're going to see kind of a second wave of holy crap level, you know, announcements just in terms of quality, but also probably in volume.
Yeah, and I think, like I said, I think we're seeing a perspective that doesn't necessarily fit with what Nintendo's seeing. Like they know where their sales are going, and while we're pretty tied into all the news, all the hype and everything, there's a big group of people who don't follow it as closely, but they're getting that word of mouth out there where kids are going back to school now and they're like, oh yeah, I got a Switch and I got to play all summer because we couldn't go on vacation this year. And like that's probably happening behind the scenes, and we're just like, we don't have kids, we don't see it.
Yeah, and I think that is an important perspective to offer, Chewy, that like I think a lot of times people like us, and when I say people like us, I mean people who podcast and people who listen to gaming podcasts and people who are this in it. We think that what we experience is representative of everyone else, and it's like, it's not. They already got our money, right? Nintendo's like, whatever. You fucking nerds will buy whatever we sell anyway. Like, well, yeah, hold on for 6 months. We'll have something cool for you. While all the average folks who maybe didn't get a Switch at launch picked it up this year and were like, oh my God, look at this incredible library, you know?
Yeah.
So, I think that's a hell of a place to end it for this first episode of Nintendo Noise. Thank you so much, Steve and Chewy, for joining me.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Yeah, of course.
Yeah, thanks for setting up this call. I'll be around.
We'll have to do it again. Yeah, we'll have to have you both on again to talk about video games at some point. Maybe next week. Maybe in a weekly video game podcast that you can get right here on FlipScreen Games. Make sure you subscribe to the channel wherever you get us. Give us a rating, subscribe to the RSS, make sure you keep up for episode 2. I hope you enjoyed this first episode as much as we did. If you did enjoy this episode, there's a bunch of ways that you can show your appreciation for that. Give us a like, share it with a friend, subscribe to the channel, head over to the Patreon, and maybe get us at that $2 level and get access to our Patreon exclusive show, One More Thing. Or if you want to go above and beyond and go even crazier, like our Patreon producers did earlier in the show, that Doc Guy, Zaid Ida, and Wakahula, you can get your name read on the air and be super cool and help us out and help us buy Steve a Nook shirt so that he can fit in next time, because he felt really sad that he didn't match the Nook boys.
Yeah, I had absolute
overlord.
Yeah, see, I didn't just follow the man like you two.
We're Petey and Chewy, we're in training. Yeah, we're gonna take over the business. All right. So, of course, go get us wherever you... FlipScreen.games. That's the website. It's got links to wherever we are all over the web. Go follow us on social media to keep up with what we're doing. Go follow the Twitch channel, where we will be clawing our way back to affiliate status as soon as possible. So go check that stuff out. Show your support however you can. And come join the community. Come be a part of the Discord. We got a link down in the description below. You can get your thoughts right on the air in the question block, or just come chat with us. Let us know how you're liking the new shows. If you've got ideas for the shows, questions, all that kind of stuff. Come chat with us. We'd love to hear from you. So, until next time, we'll see you next week for another episode of Nintendo Noise. Take care, everybody.